right, so here is your second item of week 4, your start here. So go ahead and start now into your lecture and let's go through the work. I've redone some of the things I'd done from last semester and kept some of the things I liked. So as far as the last part of what we're going to cover with the fundamental essential training, there is more on lynda.com for this one. As a matter of fact, let's just go verify, right? So there's an 8 for scripting. Definitely check that out if you want, but all you need to do is 6 through 7. And you could, in this case, if you wanted, just include it in that week 4 folder. That'd be fine if you wanted to do that as well. It's up to you, or you could create a Tuesday, Thursday, so you could organize it that way. Whichever way you like. And then I haven't said this, but I probably have said this in attendance, then all you need to give me is a link to your code up directory for that week in your lecture document. Okay? All right, so that's that one. And now what I've kind of thought we might do that might be a little fun and I think maybe beneficial is that we're going to take the site that James Williamson created, and we're going to recreate it on our GitHub IO site. Okay, so what I've done, and this is just a write-up for it, so I changed my mind a little bit about as far as the work. So we're going to take a sample page from anything after chapter 5 exercise files, and we'll then copy that into your GitHub IO index file, and then also create a style index file. And what you can do here is you can use your VS Code, even though we're not going to do this. You don't have to save this because you're ultimately going to publish this to GitHub IO. But you could do this is just go ahead, and I'm going to show you I've downloaded the GitHub James Williamson exercise files, and then all I'd want to do is, let's say I wanted to look at chapter 5, and I could just click and drag and drop it, and then it would open that in VS Code for me, and then maybe I could come down here, and maybe I'd just start with the intro, right? So what I do here, and for this first step I'm just going to copy this directly, but what I'm going to have you do is I want you to update this code. Okay, so first I'm going to copy that. I'm just going to copy this code, Control C for me, and then I'm going to go to my GitHub. I think I still have it open. I do. So I still have that index file open. Okay, so then I just paste that in there. Now what I'm going to have you do is we'll go ahead and say that. We'll say updating with James's code, and then using chapter 5 exercise file. Okay, commit that. Now, interestingly enough, before I do the next step, what would happen right now if we went and looked at this? Well, it's a good idea to do it, right? So, because, and how many know beforehand, what's it going to look like? Well, it's going to be kind of just the HTML. And why is that? Because there's no CSS file, right? So let's do that step 2. So in VS Code, and then I'm going to have you play, and I want you to play around and make this your own. I'll do the same and go through this and make this something that's for me, my content, just using this style. Okay, so in this case I notice he's using an underscore CSS, and notice that when he's linking to the CSS file he does that as well. So we're going to change the reference, but we'll create the file. So let me show you what I mean. So open up styles, take all these, and you can change the color here too. Again, your developer tools is helpful to do that. So now on our GitHub we're going to come back over here and we're going to create, let me go back to here. We've already, I did. So now we're going to create another new file, and we're going to call this one style.css. Now we could do a directory, but it's just easier to do it at the same level. There we go. Okay, and then we'll go ahead creating CSS. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to say adding James's because it's good to give credit. Okay, so because this is not our work, this is somebody else's, but this is very common on the web these days. Okay, so now if we just do those two, what's your guess on how this will look? Okay, because will it fix the CSS? And the answer is not yet. And why is that? Because in our index, remember what I said about the reference? Because the style sheet is at the same level as the CSS. So now we need to change this to reference. Let's edit the file. Okay, we'll do this. There we go. Okay, go down here, updating index, changing style sheet reference. Okay. All right, so this is the part I'm going to have you do on your own. I'm going to have you go through and modify this content to be your own, right? So you can change, matter of fact, it might be fun here where he has an image is actually upload your own, the image of yourself and place that in there, play around with that. And again, modify this code to be your own. Now you can make up content here, that's fine, but I just want you to go through and modify the code. Now, you can just do this in VS Code. It might be a little easier, right? So in VS Code, intro, like I might modify it here, look at it locally, and then copy it over there. That's the nice thing about where we're heading with the repo, is that you'll end up doing it locally and just pushing the changes. So this is kind of simulating that idea. So by the way, if I come over here now, then what it should be rendering, let's see if it does. Oh, did I actually commit that file? Seems like I did. Style, let me see. Style CS. Oh, was it called style sheet maybe? Styles, maybe that's what it was. Oh, very nice. So here's a great question. Can we rename it? When I'm in here, I sure can. Love that. I'm just going to leave that on there. So now that should work. Oh, it still doesn't. All right, so this is where you get to troubleshoot a little bit. Let me go back here, make sure. CSS. All right, let me pause. Do a little bit of troubleshooting. Oh, who caught it? It was actually a little slow. It did come through, but when I pasted, that definitely did not help updating. Okay. So it did come through though. It took it a little while to come in with that formatting. So it did come through. The formatting came through. I just had to play a little bit with my colors here, but ultimately it did. Okay, so that's your hands-on, and again, I'll play around as well. Okay, around with this. So once you've got it ready, then update your, and I'm going to call it styles.css. I think I made the same mistake recently on another video. So fun stuff. Okay, last thing you have for this week, for this item, is actually another. Let's go down here. Yeah, so this is also something that, this is an older video that I still find interesting. And this is more of like looking at the web from a different perspective, more of a social, but I think it's good. So take a look at it. This is just one of those videos that you need to watch if you're in this industry. It's referenced here and there, but just knowing the content, you know, the web is using us, are we using it? And it really talks about some of the kind of the way back days of the web and how we've come to the place that we are as far as digital text and all the way. So it's just good. So watch this and then do your main post in 2 replies. Okay, just a look ahead. I want to look ahead just a second because I want to give you a heads up here on the next week, which is the week 5. So for those of you using VS Code, I'm going to have you go through there's a web VS Visual Studio Code for web developers. It's about 1 hour and 16 minutes. What you could do here is I'm going to have you go through that course, but if you're using something else, and boy, please understand this, and this needs to go in your notes. is if you're going to use, which is fine with me, right? If you're going to use another editor, then you need to go find where you're going to source that at, and in your lecture document you need to reference and tell me and that instead of watching this is, and it has to be the equivalent, so at least a little bit over an hour of content that you're going to use to level up your skill with your editor. Okay, so just want you to know that I'll expect that. So if you're gonna want to kind of be looking maybe for some content that you'll use for that. But next week will be fun because we're going to install Git into our operating system and go from there. All right, have a good one. See you later.